Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve. So is the truth about Jeffrey Epstein finally coming out? We got some stunning revelations over the weekend that seem to be shedding new light on the sordid world of our ruling elite, and we're going to see exactly what they've uncovered. A bombshell report by the Wall Street Journal is revealing the contents of the private calendar of the notorious convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, revealing several prominent names of those who met with Epstein even after he was convicted of sex crimes involving children. Now, among the more prominent names is now Director of the CIA William Burns, as well as Obama's White House counsel Catherine Ruemmler, Bard College President Leon Botstein, and interestingly enough, left-wing activist Noam Chomsky. Now, this is significant on at least two levels. First and foremost, these are names that go beyond the names found in Epstein's infamous Black Book of contacts or the flight logs of passengers who traveled on his private jet. In other words, the calendar schedule is giving us a unique source of contacts Epstein had before he got himself perished. But secondly, all of the meetings in question occurred after Epstein had served time in jail for pleading guilty for a sex crime involving a minor back in 2008. So if you recall, it actually goes back to 2006. That's when police were informed by a mother of a young girl in West Palm Beach, Florida, that her daughter had been brought to Epstein's mansion there and propositioned to have sex for money. And this ended up kicking off an extensive one-year undercover investigation where Florida police interviewed 17 witnesses who saw all sorts of sex toys and paraphernalia in his mansion after underage girls had been there. And a young woman admitted that she was paid $200 for every teenage girl she successfully brought to Epstein. So investigators tracked down 5 of the victims, each of whom admitted that they were paid between $200 to $300 to engage in various sex acts with Epstein. Now, when police raided his mansion, they did indeed find tons of sexually explicit photographs of teenage girls, other horrors we will leave unmentioned. But when the police chief presented all this evidence to Palm Beach County's Democrat prosecutor, Barry Krischer, this Democrat prosecutor actually turned around and charged Epstein, get this, he charged Epstein with 1 count of soliciting prostitution. This Democrat prosecutor labeled these children prostitutes, and he slapped Epstein on the wrist with probation. And, as a result, rightly so, the police chief blew up. He wasn't having any of this, so he went to the feds. And so as a result of the federal investigation at the time, which was at the time led by Republicans, this is during the Bush era, Epstein had to plead guilty to 2 state felony charges, which got him 2 years in prison. But we now know that Prince Andrew had nothing else better to do than to lobby the U.S. government for a better plea deal for Epstein, which he got. Democratic county prison officials in Florida placed Epstein in a private wing of a county jail and allowed him to spend 12 hours a day, 6 days a week at his mansion throughout his entire sentence. So we're seeing how the political class, right, the elite class, live according to their own rules. They make the laws that we all have to live under while they live above the law. Rules for thee, not for me. But regardless, it's now being exposed that our current CIA director was apparently having several meetings with Epstein, which have been confirmed by a CIA spokesperson. He met with Epstein back in Washington, D.C. back in 2014 when he was then Deputy Secretary of State. We also have confirmation that he traveled to Epstein's townhouse in New York. And these meetings were obviously raising the question as to whether Epstein was in fact a spy, whether he was valuable to the deep state in terms of amassing all this dirt on the most prominent people in the world. Now, according to Burns, the CIA director, these meetings had nothing to do with Epstein being a spy. Burns said he was actually looking for a job in the private sector, and Epstein appears to have been his point man for that, which is yet itself another indicator of the revolving door that exists between billionaires and bureaucrats in our increasingly refeudalized society. And all of this raises the question, are we ever going to get to the bottom of the whole Epstein saga? Are the people involved ever going to be fully exposed for what they did? Well, first, gang, I'm sure you saw it, but, we've got another bank going under, right? First Republic is the second largest bank by assets to fail. We got runaway inflation. We got a guy in office who doesn't even know who he is. And what better time has there ever been to protect your assets with the timeless value of gold and silver than now? And that's where our good friends over at Goldco come in. Click on that link below and learn the 3 simple steps you can take right now to protect your savings with gold and silver. In fact, Goldco are patriots just like us, and they're offering you up to $10,000 in free silver while supply lasts. So don't wait. Click on that link below or visit my special website, turleytalkslikesgold.com. The Ghislaine Maxwell trial and sentencing was in many respects beyond disappointing. The court put a lid on details that would have blown the roof off of all of those involved with this Epstein guy and precisely what they were involved with. Despite unprecedented levels of cover-up, we have learned more and more about the sordid world of billionaires and bureaucrats that comprise our de facto corrupt ruling elite. We now know that Bill Gates was a frequent visitor of Epstein's. Of course, the British Daily Mail published bombshell photos of Bill Clinton getting a back massage from one of Epstein's victims. We now know that despite claiming that he had only met Epstein a handful of times, we know that Epstein was a major fundraiser for Clinton all throughout his presidency and beyond. Prince Andrew's reputation, of course, is in tatters, given his very close relationship to Epstein. But we have to admit that Maxwell's trial or Gates' divorce did very little to clear up the bewildering nature of Epstein's empire. At the very least, every name associated with Epstein tarnishes their reputation, implicating them at least in part in the suspicion of participating in sex crimes. It's very clear that the revolving door between bureaucrats and billionaires centers on money, pure and simple, right? Money and power, we know that. And Epstein found himself on the wrong side of that. And it's very clear that the powers that be are doing everything they possibly can to keep this whole sordid saga under wraps as much as possible. So I have to be honest. In the end, I don't think, as long as the deep state remains in power, I don't think we're ever going to get to the bottom of all this. That is, unless there's a massive sea change and the swamp is drained. Then and only then will we finally learn the truth. As always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You'll definitely want to check out my latest video on the world rejecting globalism as the woke left implodes. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.